Tonight, I want to talk about two things that I dealt with before I got married. One is deception, the other is the oneness of a couple. Now, once I moved from Boston to Florida, like I said, I had no intentions of getting married. I was done. All the relationships I had, they did not manifest to any serious relationships. I was like I said, maybe relationship being married is just not for me. So I decided after a while I'll just leave this alone and just live my life. But when I went down to Florida, I end up getting in a region whereby the spirit of deception was at work. And this spirit of deception had people deceived that they was going to marry this one particular man for the past 20 years. From my understanding of all of it, he never did rebuke the women. He never did get rid of that spirit. And this was 20 years. So by the time I came there, that spirit was like really strong. And this spirit tried to tell me that I was going to marry this man. And, he wasn't what I was interested in being with, but maybe because I don't know. And why it picked me, I don't know. But anyway, I've had to deal with it, and I was always asking myself, why is this spirit? It was like a mosquito. That's the best way I can put it. It was like a mosquito, and it just nagged me about it and nagged me about it. And, and I wasn't really interested, but it was so strong. And I remember one time I was saying that I'm not going to marry this man, but it was like, you will. And it's like, if this is, and I had to keep thinking, if this is God, why would he try to force me to marry somebody that I'm not really interested in? So this went on for, I don't exactly remember how long it went on, but I got to a point I was really questioning, why is this spirit acting like this? Why is this happening to me? And then one day I was told that a few people got this man together and started talking to him about me wanting, thinking I'm going to marry him. And he said, for the past 20 years, women have been believing this. And when I found out that it's been going on that long, I was saying, why he never rebuked it? One lady actually lost her mind behind it. And I remember one time he was up ministering, and he said, some people have lost their minds going through what you're going through. And I wasn't happy about that, because that this woman was not going to be your wife, but yet and still you never rebuked it, never said anything about it. And now this woman walking around, mind gone, because you never rebuked it. So that was one situation, one thing I had, spirit I dealt with before I got married. And sometimes a counterfeit will come to you before the real one comes. So after all that was over with, and check this out, at the same time this is going on, now I get it. At the same time this was going on, the Lord was dealing with me about marriage, and he started teaching me about marriage. So I guess the devil stepped in and said, well, since I got all these other women being deceived, let me try to work on her. So I believe that's the reason why that spirit attached itself to me. And the only way I was able to break it was because the only way I was really able to break it was I remember this. I'm just trying to think right now, because like I said, this is over 20 years. This is some many years ago. I remember I was driving on Highway 29. I was coming from Century, and I was driving to Pensacola. I was going to work. And I remember every time I go to Florida, I remember that very exact location where the devil tried to take my mind away from me. It's like I could feel long fingers, and this is exactly how it felt. It felt like long fingers in my head with like spoons on the end, trying to swirl my brain around. And when I was feeling this feeling in my head, it made me think about the lady that was deceived that she was going to marry this man. So I told the spirit, I need you to stop talking to me. I don't know because this was a total new experience for me. Never experienced this before. So I said, whether this is God or not, or whatever this is, I need you to stop talking to me. And when I said that, the swirling in my head stopped. And I know people say that people that talk to themselves are crazy. But I began talking to myself, trying to recall back to myself me. I just wanted to make sure that I was there. I started asking myself, what's your name? I said, my name is Nina. Who's your mama? My mother is Sally Mae, And I started just asking myself just different questions. And I was doing that because I wanted to make sure that I was all there before, because I'm on my way going somewhere and I don't want to be lost. I don't want to be confused. I watched many people that were something going on up here, and they just walking around aimlessly. I remember someone telling me they saw this guy that he was fine when we met him, but I don't know what happened, but he was at a bus stop and he was walking back and forth. And I didn't want to be like that. I saw a woman, it's 80 degrees outside, and she's dressed like it's 10 below. So I remember seeing people like that, seeing people walking around and like, their body is moving, but nobody home. And that has been one spirit that I can truly say that I totally cannot stand. Because for one thing, it was trying to take my mind over a situation that was not even true. If it could get me to believe it, it had me and took this other woman's mind over it. And I'm like, I didn't want that to happen to me. So even down through the years, when I would just go different places, if something come to me, it's like, when you go to a new church, and I'm going to deal a lot with women in the church because this is going on. This is going on so deeply that, and I don't understand this, but a lot of women, they want to marry pastors and they want to marry leaders, and it's like, y'all need to let that go. I'll tell anybody, just let that go. God can bless you with a good Uriah soldier. Don't worry about a king. You never know, the soldier may come up to become a king. But don't worry about all that. When women go to churches, they don't need to be going to churches looking for who they're going to hook up with, who they want to be with. Because the spirit of deception is so much at work. And then even I remember a time I was wanting not to be a part of his particular church because I felt like there was going to be a lot of women thinking they're going to marry the leaders. And then sometimes that spirit will get on you, even though you're not even trying to. So I've had that happen, but there's one thing when it comes down to the spirit of deception. Just like the woman that went to Carlton Pearson Church in a wedding dress. He didn't know her from Ida Dottie or anybody from Paul and all of y'all. I'm not trying to make this a joke, but I'm really not. I'm really serious. But the lady went to the church in a wedding dress, like her and Carlton going to get married today. And she told him, God said, you my husband. Now, according to the scripture, that's backwards. You know, you have a lot of women that are chasing men. They need to stop that. Don't let I will say this right here. Don't let the devil make a fool out of you. Thinking you're going to marry somebody, you're not even on their scale. Beep, beep, beep. That circle going around and they ain't saying nothing with you in the vicinity. Not saying nothing. I'll tell any woman, if something comes to you that you're going to marry a man, don't say nothing to that man until that man says something to you. Just like I was told, this woman, she met this man. She was a hospital worker. And this man come in on a stretcher. When this man came in on a stretcher, it come to her, that's your husband. But because she was a hospital worker, she had to assist him. But she never said nothing about it. She never said nothing. She just went on about business. And then, one day after a while, he got mended. He got well. And because he was mended and well, they just started talking. And then one day he just asked her for her number. They started talking some more by the time he left the hospital. And then later on, after a while, he ended up telling her one day. He said, will you marry me? Then she brought back the time that it came to her that this man was your husband. See, that's using wisdom. Foolishness is going somewhere, saying you're going to marry somebody, something telling you you're going to marry somebody, and 100 others feeling the same thing, y'all scrapping, having cat fights over a man that don't want you. Friendships are being broken over this deception. I'll tell anybody, cut it out. Don't give your energy to it until a man give you words. It's just like I was at this church, and I always think about this. If a man don't come to you and say, Sister Sarah, I'm excited about your future. Maybe we can share it together. If you don't say nothing like that to you, don't be like, yeah, I'm looking at him. And I remember a time, I'm going to say this and I'm going to move on to the next one. And I remember a time when this man was at this church. Now, none of the girls in the church would act right, so he brought somebody from somewhere else to the church. But the girls in the church did not appreciate the fact that there was this other woman and they can't have, and he's not interested in them. So what they decided to do, they're going to kick her chair and agitate her so she won't leave. And that's exactly what happened. So when it comes down to deception, to make sure that it is what it is, don't tell that man that God said that you are my husband and I'm your wife. Let the man tell you. Okay, so let's settle that. Another thing, God didn't talk to me about that. That was just what was going on. I had to deal with it and learn how to work this thing out and figure it out. But one thing God dealt with me about was the oneness of a couple. A lot of people feel like the oneness of a couple is when, a husband and wife, they're sexually involved. That might have a part of it. He didn't go into that depth with me about it. What the part he brought to me about, when you are one with your spouse, and God used a lot of elders and their wives to bring this point to me. He was showing me a lot of people in leadership positions about this. The oneness of a couple is like this elder, he was at work. And his wife is telling me this. This elder is at work and he's desiring to have fish for dinner. So while she's at home and she's about to cook a meal, because he wants fish for dinner, she pick it up. But she don't really know. She's not really thinking that he want it. She I just cooked some fish tonight. So she goes and start cooking some fish. And then when he comes home, they greet each other at the door. He says, baby, you know what I would like for dinner tonight? I would like some fish. But fish is already on the stove. I remember when Minister Jones when we had, started, we were just friends, I wasn't interested in him and, he wasn't interested in me or nothing like that. But I had bought a house and he ended up telling me, he said, you need a dog in your yard. We just friends. I was like, I said, that'd be fine. And the Lord, when he brought the dog home to my house, she looked just like a dog I had when I was a child named Muffin. And I said to myself, she looked just like the puppy that I had back home. And it come to my mind, the oneness of a couple. And I was like, but I ain't trying to be interested. And I just blew it out of my mind. I just blew it out of my head. So that was one time. But I'm not saying nothing to him about it. Okay? Because I'm not interested. I'm not interested. Then I remember I went to the store and I was going to get some mats for my front door. But walked out the store without getting the mats. So then Brother Minister Jones, we started talking and he started saying, he was at the store today and he thought about it. It's like he thought about getting me some mats today for my house. He said, but he didn't do it because, he didn't know whether I needed it or not. And I said, why? I said, well, I was just at the store and I just totally forgot about it, Then it come to my mind again, the oneness of a couple. And like I said, the whole time I was just, no, I'm not interested. That was just, but I'm saying this because when you have deception is lying to you. But when you have God's going to deal with the man and the woman. Okay? It's not going to be a one-way street. And I even remember, I'm trying to think if there was another time. Oh yes. This was the kicker almost for me. I remember the Lord telling me, and a lot of people think this is old-fashioned, but it'll save you a lot of soul ties clinging to you and you having all these problems because you got all these people in between because of soul ties. God spoke to me and said that he did not want me to go out with nobody except it was the one that he had for me. And I was all like, okay, God got somebody specifically for you. I was like, yeah. I was like, yeah, whatever, So one day, Minister Jones was going to go to a friend of his wedding. He was one of the men in one of the ushers, but he wanted me to go with him. And I told him, I said, well, I have to pray about that. I don't know if that would be all right with the Lord for me to go, because I'm thinking about what God told me. I did not tell him that. So I went to the Lord and I prayed to the Lord, and I was asking the Lord, because, and I told him, James, he wants to go, Minister Jones want to go to a wedding, and he was asking me to go with him because he wanted someone to go with him, but then he wanted us to just go out to eat, because the wedding party, they was going to go to the club or the lounge, and because we were saved, we weren't trying to go to that. And I said, well, let me ask the Lord. So I told the Lord, well, Lord, since we are just friends, would it be okay for me to accompany him to this wedding? I mean, we're not going on a date. I'm just accompanying him to this wedding, and then we're just going to go out to eat later on. I mean, I think we went and sat, well, that was afterwards. I'm not really sure. But when I asked the Lord about it, the Lord said, yes, I can go. And I was like, okay, but the Lord said I couldn't go out. I was really looking for the Lord to tell me no, I couldn't go. But when he said yes, I was like, well, the Lord said don't for me not to go out with nobody. And then he said the oneness of a couple. And I was like, so I told him I would go and everything like that. That oneness of a couple, it's like, you ever seen, I would say on the Animal Kingdom channel, you have these fish. They be flying. They're flying fish flying. Can you imagine? Yes, they got flying fish, but that's not the fish I'm talking about. You ever see those fish? They look like mirrors. And they're just turning in sequence with each other. It's like one going this way, they all go that way. They make a quick turn, and they all make that quick turn. They do that because they're one. Even though they're however many they are, 100 of them, they're one. That's why they move in sequence. That's why they move in sequence. And that's how it's like with a husband and wife. They are one. They think the same. They're not opposites. They're not fighting against each other like two negatives. They're like positives and negatives together. They're not fighting against each other. They're thinking the same way. And when you have a relationship like that, relationships like that can flow. I know it's a lot of times, even in being married, I will be doing something and I will be thinking about something, and he'll do the same thing. We'll be thinking about the same thing. I mean, I think if couples can get to the point of that oneness, and what did it take for that? I really don't know. The Lord just started talking to me about it. I wouldn't say, I don't want to use this incident that happened because, people may take it the wrong way. And what it was is, I remember I went to this church, and it's like a few of us had on the same colors that night. And I was asked, when did you get the memo? I said, what memo? They said, you all were wearing the same colors. I said, well, I didn't notice. I notice I go to church sometimes, and me and the other person will have on the same colors. It's like, you know, I don't know if that's, we ain't a couple. But that's what God dealt with me about in getting married, about the oneness of a couple, how together they are. So, a lot of times when God is putting you, together with someone, and like I said, you need to get all the information that you need about that person, because just because God is putting you together, that don't mean, everything is going to be just great and fine and dandy. You just got you because you don't. It's like being saved. Being saved, you don't live happy. You're not excited about stuff all the time. You're not on a flower bed of ease all the time. Sometimes it's like you eating cherries. There's some pits in there. Sometimes you bite into a bad pecan or pecan, whatever where you're from. You're gonna have your ups and downs, but it's the fact that you vow to stay there. And like I try to tell people, you need to write down. I know I said this previously, but I'm still writing it down. You need to start writing down what you want in a wife, what you want in a husband, what you will deal with, what you will not deal with. I think people need to write down their top 3 reasons why you want to get married. Your top 3. What are your top 3 reasons why you want to get married? And of those top 3 reasons, what is the one that you would deal without? What is the one you'll deal without? Now, and you got to really think about that. These are your top 3 reasons why you want to get married. But what if it lacked one? The hardest part, what if it lacked 2? Well, really just think about it. But the oneness of a couple, I believe, that is when you're not in deception. You done waited on God. You done talked and prayed and sought after God, and you let him lead and tell you instead of you telling him. That oneness of a couple, when God was breaking that down to me, I thought that was just so beautiful for how a couple y'all just flowing together. It's like sailing. But when you have a lot of relationship with a lot of turbulences, and it's always a turbulence, maybe, you need to get somewhere and ask God to, hopefully you both can get together. Like I said, I was just looking for my book, Marriage Boot Camp. That's a good book to help people that are already married to get some things mended. But I'm trying to do these right here to help people that want to get married, that you don't see good relationships, everybody having a hard time, and a lot of people deciding, well, I don't want to marry, I'm just going to live with someone. Well, you don't want to just do that either. You don't want to just live with somebody and saying just because y'all love each other that's enough. No, it's not enough. Marriage is honorable and the bed undefiled, but whoremongers and adulterers God will judge. So keep all that in mind. But like I said, this is not my platform. I'm trying to just be obedient to God and just get these out as much as I can so that people can be helped. And that's all I really want. I want people to be helped. I want people to gain some understanding. Watch out for deception, ladies, especially ladies. Watch out for deception. And if something's coming to you, let the man tell you, and don't you tell him. Till next time.